Hey guys, Mike back with Wildlife Sport Outfitters doing another YouTube video for you. Today we're going to talk about tip-ups, but I wanted to touch on something real quick. I did a safety video last week, and apparently there were some people that didn't watch it because they drove a truck out on Turtle Pond in Concord. Not a good idea in November and December. We only have a few inches of ice. We're trying to get a nice thick ice going on these lakes, and when you drive on them and smash through it, it kind of ruins it for everybody. Also, you could potentially kill yourself, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to get that truck out of there. So let's keep the trucks off the ice until late February, middle February, and 18 inches. It's a little bit smarter. I'm not going to waste any more time on that. Let's get into the tip-ups. I got two different kinds of tip-ups to show you today. First one I'm going to show you is the flat tip-up. Lays down on the ice nice. If there's a lot of snow on the ice and you have to dig down to get to the ice, this one might not work out that well because the flag doesn't sit up too high. You use a cross stick tip up for that. I'll show you that in a minute. This guy just opens up like that, pretty simple. And then this sets right on this pin here, like that. When a fish takes, spool spins, trips the trap. Pretty simple. The only thing you really have to remember about this trap is once it's all spooled up, the line has to come through this here, so it doesn't get tangled up, doesn't get cut on the side of the trap, on the side of the spool. And the other thing about this is when you're running a leader from your line, and we'll talk about that as well, don't use a swivel, because if the swivel ends up in the spool, it's going to get caught on that clip every time, and fish will break off, and you'll have all kinds of problems with it. So that's the flat tip up. Next, we're going to show you the cross stick tip up. Pretty sure most of you know what this one is. This is a Heritage Laker trap. Just open up your frame. Tighten down your wing nuts. You're ready to go. All you have to do, you take your flag assembly out of its permanent clip and you just move it over to the other clip. You have to make sure that this needle is actually closed when you set it, because that's what hits the flag. Like that. If it's open, it's never gonna go off whether you have a fish or not. So make sure this is closed. Set your flag. And then you can put the pin on the reel wherever you'd like. I like to set mine right up against the trigger assembly. That way, if a fish takes, it's gonna go off right away. Another cool thing that this tip-up has that a lot of other tip-ups don't have is a star drag system. If you loosen this wing nut here, you can actually adjust the drag of the spool. So I can back this star drag up a bit and it free spools, but I can tighten that down a little, tighten the wing nut, and now it's very tight for bigger game like lake trout and pike. Those are the two styles of tip-ups we have. Now we're going to move on to how to rig them up. At Wildlife, we have three different kinds of line, colors that is. We have green, black, and tan, all heavy waxed. It's called squidding line. This is what you want to load your tip-ups with. The leader will come after the fact. We have 18 and 36 that we can spool up here for you when you bring your tip-ups in, or if you buy tip-ups here, we can load them. We also have 18, 27, and 36 of the same colors on the retail floor that you can buy and spool up yourself at your house if you'd like. After you've loaded up the spool with the squidding line, you have a couple of different options to go with as far as leader material goes. I have fluorocarbon, popular amongst trout fishermen, and I have regular monofilament, bass, warm water, anything else pretty much. I have a bunch of different leaders at my house depending on what kind of fishing I'm doing. 4-pound test generally for the trout. I run about a 6 to an 8-pound test when I'm bass fishing, and then I run about a 40-pound test fluorocarbon when I'm pike fishing. You could play with all these different weights as you get out there, but a standard 6-pound test is a pretty good all-around leader that you could kind of run with all species. I suggest fluorocarbon because it's really hard for the fish to see, no matter what species you're attacking. After you, before you tie on your leader, you want to run a swivel of some kind, unless you're running those flat tip ups we talked about. But if you're running any other cross stick tip up or any other variation, polar cover tip up, unfortunately I don't have any of those in stock, so I couldn't show you one. You run a swivel. I have 2 different kinds of swivels here. I picked big sizes just to show you in this video. If you're fishing for trout, you're gonna run a much smaller size. Actually, even bass I don't run, but it's size 10, and this is a size 5. The 2 different kinds, you have a straight barrel swivel, where if you're gonna tie on a general purpose leader and you're gonna run it for all different species of fish, a barrel swivel is where you wanna be. It's got 2 loops on either end and it's fixed, so you don't have to worry about tying knots once it's tied on. If you're like me and you tie a loop on the end of your leader, you're gonna run a snap swivel, because all I have to do is open up the snap and switch the leaders and I'm good to go. I got 2 kids at the house. I got like no time to set up my tip ups, so I go home Saturday night when I'm gonna fish Sunday morning. I spend 5 minutes setting my tip ups up and I'm ready to go. It's a lot easier when you're running a snap swivel. At the end of the swivel becomes the leader material. We talked about that. Play with your distances. I run a long leader. Some people run a short leader. For trout, I run a lighter leader. I've seen people catching all variations, so play with your leaders. Don't just run with one thing somebody tells you. The hook is key, and again, I picked very large size hooks to show you. This is a standard bait holder hook in a size 1. For bass, I'm generally using a size 4 or a size 6. For trout, I'm using octopus hooks with an out eye. Again, this is a size 1. For trout, I'm generally around a size 8 or 10. Some guys even go smaller, but 8 or 10 is fine. The octopus hook in this size is good for bass and panfish. It'll work for perch and crappie and things like that. Even a size smaller is good. But we have all this stocked up and ready to go for you guys. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is sinkers. I don't generally run a sinker. You can. It helps get the bait down, especially if you're fishing in deeper water. For bass, crappie, perch, things like that. You want to get the bait down there quick. You don't want to sit there all day fiddling with it, trying to get it down the hole. That's what this guy's going to be good for. Again, I picked a big size. You don't need something this big. If you're running shiners, you kind of want to stick to a smaller weight to tire out the fish a little bit less. It's a good idea, because if you tire out that fish too much, it's just going to sit there. And bass, trout alike, all species that chase shiners, they want to chase their shiner. They don't want to go after something that's just laying there. You go and fishing with your cusk traps or potentially pike, lake trout, that sit on the bottom and wait for ambush. You can use chunk bait or dead bait. But when you're fishing for bass and moving predators, go with a lively shiner, something that's going to try and run away from them. That's about it for this video. One more time before I leave, I just want to let you know, don't take those trucks on the ice before February, please. Thank you. Have a good day.